Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Kevin Lee, and let's queer up health. Groundbreaking study explores how LGBTQ stroke survivors experience sex and sexuality after stroke. A new qualitative study is giving long overdue visibility to how LGBTQI plus stroke survivors and their partners experience sex and sexuality after stroke. Using interpretative phenomenological analysis, researchers interviewed 18 stroke survivors and 5 partners across the United States, UK, Canada, and New Zealand, finding 4 recurring themes: changes in sexual functioning, shifts in sexual activity and behavior, relationship strain, and barriers to LGBTQI plus community access. Most participants reported negative changes. One gay man shared, "Because my left leg was paralyzed, I couldn't really sit up or kneel or assume any other particular position, and just became harder both for me and for any other partner." Another participant said, I'm now suffering a bit of erectile dysfunction. I didn't know I was, and I was quite obviously embarrassed by it." But not every story was about loss. Some couples adapted positions, pace, or embraced non-penetrative intimacy. Others negotiated ethical monogamy to meet the needs. And yet many described role shifts from partner to caregiver and feeling excluded from queer spaces due to disability, fatigue, or accessibility hurdles. Authors say the findings should reshape sexual rehabilitation, which too often assumes heterosexual norms. Recommendations include training clinicians to discuss LGBTQI plus specific concerns, from PIA to consent after brain injury, addressing body image and confidence, and co-designing support with survivors. So how can we help? Well, spread the word and follow the project on Facebook or Instagram at Stroke LGBTI Research. You can also participate in the research if you are 18 plus adult who lives in Australia, New Zealand, the United States, Canada, or the United Kingdom, who identifies as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer or questioning, or intersex, and who has experienced a stroke or is the partner of someone who has. Participation involves one-on-one interview with the study's lead, Mr. William Koke, a PhD candidate at the Sydney School of Health Sciences, to learn more. This study has been approved by the Human Research Ethics Committee at the University of Sydney. Koke hopes this research will service the needs and preferences that should shape sexual rehabilitation. So support truly helps LGBTQI plus stroke survivors and their partners. You know, what's interesting to me about this story is that these couples who have gone through a difficult time, with my background in nursing as a nurse anesthetist, a nurse practitioner, and 35 years in the industry, I see the trauma in families after stroke. And what I like about this story is that they've actually gone beyond typical heteronormative relationship, and they're willing to consider ethical, non-monogamy. I guess that's the best way to say it. And so they're having conversations that are difficult, that are sometimes taboo. It brings up fear, it brings up some boundary issues. But I think it's super appropriate for our community to be having these discussions at a time when really the gay community is blossoming and flourishing in different ways. So I really salute the couples that are willing to step back and meet the needs of another person over themselves, and to support someone's sexual needs when the other partner cannot.
I think that making that and keeping that long-term commitment is not as easy and flawless as people would think. And you're right. People have to be willing to have difficult conversations and go beyond that, oh, but I thought I was going to get this out of the relationship, and I thought it was going to stay like this. You know, the most mature and freeing relationships are going to try to break out of that. And it sounds like a lot of the people in this study have discussed that. Yeah. I'm just really glad somebody studied it. You know, it's really hard in this country to get them to study anything about medical or health concerns that have something not to do with a cisgender heterosexual white man.
Exactly.
Of any kind. So yeah, this came from Australia, but at least there were some Americans that were involved in it, and just anything that's outside of that little capsule, like the rest of the people, that you see, finding ways that we can discover how to accommodate these things and really heal.
Love it.
I think it's awesome.
I'm glad that it's an ongoing study because, first, when I see, in media too often will report something that says it's sort of a medical study. This is not a medical study. Obviously, I don't want to say that for anyone, but they'll show 10 or 20 people that says X. I'm like, that's not a real study. That's a first trial. And to see the PhD student have 18 people.
There weren't a lot.
But it's nice to see that they're still doing it. But I will just as a former grad student, my concerns with the study are well, you're comparing different health systems that are very different. So the way people are treated in the United States is very different from the UK, Australia, and Canada systems. So I'm a little
those are better.
What have your PhD dissertation professors been talking to you, and how are they making sure your study is working properly? That would be my question for him. But at the same time, it is very hard to find participants who are both stroke survivors, the partner of a stroke survivor who's also queer and willing to talk about their sexuality. So
they probably looked for a long time to get that 18 people.
Exactly. So I've given them a hard time, but I know I feel you. We've all been there with these sorts of studies. But it's great to see them do it, and also while I don't want to say that the study proves anything, I do have a feeling that it's very accurate that in the United States, for queer people that suffer from disabilities, they have a hard time being welcome in our spaces. And I do think we have to talk about that a lot more as a society.
That's an excellent point.
Good point.
So that is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.